Hi, I'm Blas Scott with Lord & Scott, and I'm coming to you from our beautiful offices at the Crescent, downtown Dallas. As you can see, there are boxes behind me. We're also super busy. This is a regular work day. There are no camera crews. There are no makeup crews. If there were, I think this would be a lot better video. But I wanted to have a really candid conversation with you about lawyers in my city and why we've been contacting you, and explain to you how a consumer search online or on mobile apps right now for a lawyer in your area is super important to you, whether you realize it or not, and how those searches are impacting your practice. But first, I want to tell you a super quick story. So in 2015, we were contacted by a family in Pennsylvania who was looking for a probate lawyer. They had found a partner at a law firm who had been listed on another site, had lots of great ratings, lots of stars, and they weren't quite happy with her, so they looked at ours. We didn't include her, so they were wanting to know what gives. As it turns out, we had not included her because we could not verify her law school, verify her standing with the Bar Association, so we simply did not include her. As it turns out, that same year, we discovered that she was actually a paralegal who was impersonating a lawyer. That story made the NBC News, news channels everywhere. If you want to know, check out Kimberly Kitchens, Pennsylvania. And even after she was arrested, she was still on another site with lots of stars. Do you want another story? We were contacted by several families out of California who had all hired the same immigration attorney, had paid him fees, yet nothing was ever filed on any of their cases. So we directed them to the State Bar of California for handling, and it was such a sad situation because these people paid their hard-earned money to an immigration attorney who was supposed to be their advocate, and the attorney simply missed every single deadline, yet still had super great ratings on another website, had lots of stars, and so was still advertising and looking fabulous, even though these families had already gone to the State Bar and were going through the process of having their complaints investigated. Here's another story. A family from Highland Park whose daughter was attending UT went to San Antonio for Fiesta. Their daughter had a little bit too much to drink, got into a little bit of trouble. They needed a criminal defense attorney there. Not wanting to tell anybody about it, they just did their own search online, found an attorney that looked fabulous. Lots of stars, lots of really good ratings. So they hired him. He was not in our repository. Later, they see him on the news because he was allegedly requesting sexual favors in exchange for legal representation of some of his clients. So they wanted to know, why was he not included in ours? Well, because we deleted him from our repository once we saw that the allegations were made public, and that was well before he was even under indictment. So our philosophy was, we'll put you back in once you get this issue resolved, if it's resolved favorably. Okay, and here's a bigger one. We were contacted by an oil services company from San Antonio looking for an attorney in Atlanta to handle a contract dispute. They had found an attorney on another site who had great ratings, was a partner at a firm, super cool. But they kept calling the firm and they kept being referred to other attorneys in the office. And they wanted that particular lawyer, so once they couldn't get a hold of him, they just decided to look somewhere else completely. They'd rather go to a partner than to an associate. So they called and said, hey, we need help with this. Lots of people just seem to call instead of just searching online or downloading the mobile apps, which that's what we direct them to do, and then they're fine once we tell them, hey, you need to download the app. But anyway, so I had to figure out, because I wanted to know why we had not included this partner in our repository, this partner that had great ratings and lots of stars on another site. Why did we opt not to have him? So then I figured it out from our notes. 2 years before that, he had been indicted for murdering his wife. The very day the oil and gas services company from San Antonio was looking to retain his services, this attorney was actually sitting in a prison cell serving a life term for murdering his wife. So I personally called the Atlanta Bar Association, Georgia Bar Association, and reported that. Shortly thereafter, the profile was deleted, but the profile was up for years before it was taken down. So, final story, I'm not going to bore you. I'm almost done, I promise. An attorney contacted us and said, hey, we want to go ahead and create our profiles on lawyers in my city, but what about negative reviews? So, to address that, we protect lawyer members on lawyers in my city. All reviews can be moderated. A lawyer cannot change a review, but a lawyer can choose whether or not that review is published on their profile. And this protects attorneys from disgruntled former clients who are trying to engage them in conversation online, in public, and thereby breaking the attorney-client privilege. So with our profiles, you can completely control that. So this is where we are now. In 2008, I started Lord & Scott as a talent acquisition service. We provide recruiting services for law firms and corporate legal departments. However, from day one, we were mistaken as a lawyer referral network. So consumers would call looking for a criminal defense lawyer, you name it. What we started doing was giving them the names and numbers of folks in our network. When that got to be too much, we created a list. We just email out a list. When that got to be too much, we published the list online. When the list got too long to work with because it was just a static list, we splurged and had someone create a searchable database. When that wasn't enough, we went ahead, published another site, the site that we have today, along with mobile apps for both Apple and Android devices. But we took it a step further because I always just have to take everything to another level, so I'm told. So we took it to another level. Anytime there was an attorney that would pop up on my radar as having something questionable in their background, we just pulled them off. Completely pulled them off. If there was any kind of disciplinary action that was not resolved and was directly related to the representation of clients, we pulled them off. No questions asked. And we provided this service for free. Great. Perfect. We were happy to do that. To us, it was a way of giving back. However, a lot of other sites have popped up and they're not checking standings with state bar associations. They may or may not report the disciplinary actions. So basically, there are a lot of really good lawyers who are on these sites right next to these people who are sitting in a prison cell and still enjoying top star ratings, who are under indictment and are still enjoying top ratings, who weren't even lawyers and were enjoying top star ratings on these websites. There are a lot of attorneys that are on these websites that are not in our repository, and they're not in our repository for a reason. And I don't know about you, but I don't want anyone's grandparent or aunt going to who they think is a probate lawyer and it turn out to be a paralegal in disguise. I don't know about you, but I don't want any sorority girl to have to go to a criminal defense attorney who's under indictment for soliciting his clients in exchange for representation. I don't want any of my neighbors to contact a law firm for assistance and it turn out that the attorney they're looking for, who has great star ratings, end up being someone who's sitting in a prison cell convicted of killing his wife. Consumers deserve an alternative to these websites. They deserve a place where they can find attorneys of high caliber, high level of integrity, and who are in good standing. And this is exactly what Lawyers in My City offers. This is exactly why we created it. This is exactly why we curate it. And this is exactly why we're going to continue. Because as long as consumers need an alternative to these sites that list people who are not in good standing with state bars, who may not even be lawyers, as long as consumers need a place to find attorneys of high integrity and who are passionate about advocating for their rights, we will continue to do our work. So we're inviting attorneys who want to be a part of Lawyers in My City to join us today. And as a way to give back, part of our proceeds will be going to the Innocence Project in Texas and the Innocence Project out of New York. So the next question for us was, where do we go from here? Here we have a project that landed on our lap that we will continue to work as long as consumers need an alternative. We will continue to be here. And now we invite attorneys to join us. So what do we do with this? So we decided we would be giving back to the population that needs it the most. We've decided to give a portion of our proceeds to the Innocence Project of Texas and the Innocence Project in New York. And that is our way of utilizing this project that landed on our lap and doing something positive with it and protect consumers and at the same time help those who need it most. So we invite you to join, and we invite you to respond to our email.